Hello, dear friends. Here I am again, bringing you episode 3 of my book, Life After Depression. If you haven't listened to the first 2, obviously go back and listen to episode 1 and 2, and this will all make much more sense to you. Sit back and enjoy. Here we go. Life goes on, as did mine. Some days were good, others bad. I wish I'd written down every episode of depression I'd ever experienced over the last 20-odd years. And at least I may have been able to make some sort of sense out of it all and found a pattern if there was. I feel like I've spent my whole adult life wishing to be normal, just like everyone else. Not even ecstatically happy, just normal. At the time of starting to write this, I'm 47 years old, and I've been divorced for 1.5 years. I hate being on my own. I hear other women talking about their newfound freedom they're enjoying, but I don't feel free at all. I feel lonely, unloved, and trapped by this disease they call depression. Is there no light at the end of the tunnel for me? Please someone, explain this to me. Can someone please help me? The next heading is my life. I was blessed to be born into a loving family, the last of 3 children. I was the baby in the family by 7 years and enjoyed the love of my brother and my sister and the absolute devotion of my parents. My childhood was a happy one, filled with good memories of school, church, neighborhood friends, Mom having lunch ready for me when I got home from school, knowing my dad would always come home at night, and the knowledge that I was loved. What an incredible start I had in life, which has also shown me that we can't always look for reasons in our upbringing or home life to blame for the way we feel. Yes, in some cases, one can be left scarred by childhood trauma which manifests itself as depression. But that was definitely not the case with me. And you need to be very careful if there was anything in your upbringing, teenage years, or adult life that left scars. Are you dealing with them, or are you masking them with medication? On the other hand, also, be careful that you don't dwell on matters in the past that are not really an issue, and disregard the possible necessity for medication. I was married for 28 years to the second boy I ever knew. We had a somewhat brief and passionate relationship. I fell pregnant at age 17 and we got married. It was, without a doubt, the scariest time of my life. Before I knew what was happening to me, the wedding plans had been made and I was walking down the aisle 1 week later. The young girls today seem to have so many choices. In my day, you got pregnant, you got married. Without going into too much detail, as that's not really the reason for this sharing, my husband and I never had a good marriage and outgrew each other emotionally and in every other way over the years. Even though I was afraid of what I was going into, I felt so grown up at 17 and was sure that I could handle anything. When I think back now, I was such a child. I now understand why my mum was so distraught about her baby getting pregnant. But like lots of couples, we mostly kept our incompatibilities to ourselves and got on with our lives. bringing up our 3 beautiful children, working hard to make ends meet, and having our individual and a few combined interests met. I was always aware that we didn't have an ideal marriage, but I also knew of some couples with marriages much worse than ours, so I told myself to be grateful for what I had. In retrospect, we were so bad for each other. We never brought out the best in each other at all. I blamed him for a lot of the failure of our marriage, and I now realize he needed something that I could not give him, and vice versa. Anyway, the marriage ended, but only after my parents died. Divorce had never been an option for me before. I grew up in a staunch Catholic family. Mum and Dad were married for 54 years by the time my dad died. Divorce was a rude word in our home. You made your bed, you lie in it type of attitude. My mom would talk about a couple who had got divorced in hushed tones. So how on earth could I get divorced? I told myself I owed it to my parents to stay married. My sister had already got divorced. Heaven forbid that I should do the same thing. How lucky for me I had some noble reason for telling myself I had to stay married. I'm a Catholic, I can't get divorced. Or, it would break my parents' hearts if a second child got divorced. In truth, I was just too scared to do it. I didn't have the courage to live alone. I tried it once, leaving him after 16 years for a couple of months, and even getting my own apartment for myself and my children. But I went back. I had suffered from depression for so many years, I was convinced if I got divorced, I would fall to pieces. I'd become used to feeling like I couldn't cope with as much as others could. I'd even heard myself described as emotionally frail once. Obviously, I would never cope. I knew that. Heading to the next chapter, the monster makes an entrance. My first experience of depression happened without my knowing it was depression. I think I was about 27 years old, if I remember correctly. I had a young family, a job, and a busy life. I would get these feelings of being completely overwhelmed with my life. I would cry if someone looked at me sideways. I constantly had a tight, sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. Sometimes my heart would beat so fast, I thought I was having a heart attack. I used to go to the doctor a lot. I always wished he would give me something to take these awful feelings away. But whatever he gave me, nothing helped. To give my GP, my general practitioner, some credit, I don't think I ever told him exactly how I was feeling. I used to feel so guilty about feeling this way. Everyone else seemed to be getting on with their lives well enough. Why couldn't I do the same? This continued for years. Sometimes I would feel a bit better, sometimes even a little happy, and then I would be hit down again, so deep into that dark hole. I longed to be normal like other people. I plodded along, feeling sorry for myself, trying to find things to make me happy, never realizing that the worst was yet to come. One Saturday morning, I went to work as I usually did. My husband went off to play golf in the morning, and my children were safely at home with our nanny. I recall feeling terribly anxious in the car on the way to work. I began working, but the anxiety became worse. I started feeling confused and rather out of control. I could hardly remember what I was doing there. I didn't know what to do to stop the feeling. I was embarrassed. What should I do? What would my work colleagues think of me? They'd think I'd completely lost my mind. I needed to find some privacy while I contained my anxiety. I went to the bathroom to hide away for a few minutes. I took some deep breaths. I splashed cold water on my face and on my wrists. I could not control the desperate feelings any longer. They were rising up in me like a strong tide. What am I going to do? I can't call anyone and let them see me like this. We had a rest bed in our bathroom, so I thought it would be a good idea if I just lay down for a while. That is the last I remember for 4 days. The next memory I have is being in hospital. I asked a nurse how I'd got there. She told me that I'd been brought in 4 days earlier. I have absolutely no recollection of that time, and it still haunts me today that I talked, ate, used the bathroom, functioned for 4 days. My hospital stay was a blur of being taken for daily drips containing some sort of drug that left me feeling like I was floating on air and didn't even know my own name. When that wore off, I would come down with such a thump. I'd cry uncontrollably. The feelings of panic and hopelessness were overwhelming. My family visited me regularly, and a few friends, but I never saw my children during my stay in hospital. And, to be honest, I think I was too confused to even miss them. Poor little souls, they must have missed me so much during that time. I have fought off feelings of guilt towards my children ever since that time. I am so aware that they were left in the care of their nanny and their grandmom too often. At that time I wanted so badly to be the best mother to them, but I felt sad and withdrawn a lot of the time, and I felt all consumed by my own condition. I remember times when I was lying on my bed and I could hear them in the rest of the house talking, laughing and playing. I wanted to get up and talk, laugh and play with them, but I just couldn't. I didn't have what it took to do it. I'm so extremely sorry for this, and know that depression not only left me feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope with my life, it also robbed me of precious times with my children. If anyone reading this feels the same guilt towards a family member that I've felt, my advice to you is to apologize to them. It's not easy to do, and it's even more difficult for the person being apologized to. How do they forgive someone for something that they didn't even mean to do, but insist on your apology being heard? It'll also aid you in your healing process. I know of people who have hurt family members during their time of deep depression and said things that can never be taken back. Well, if you're one of those people, it's history. There's nothing you can do to change what happened, but you can apologize for your behavior. It will mend fences and make you feel better about yourself as well. Even if you might have said some things that are even true, you can still apologize for talking about those issues in anger instead of calmly and rationally. Don't underestimate how hurt and helpless your family feel in this sad time too. They all want to help, and they have no idea how to do it. Whatever they do, never seems to be enough for you. And sometimes they even appear to give up. It's not because they don't love or care about you anymore. They are simply out of ideas. Thank you, my dear friends, for listening to the next episode. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.